business is the approval of the May business meeting. We can do them together in the July business meeting. But Michelle, I do have one correction. On the July 1st meeting, Mr. Frayne was no longer an alternate at that point. He was a regular member of the Planning Commission. Are there any other changes? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. I see nothing under old business. Okay, moving on to new business, the final minor subdivision for lands of Clayton Lapley. Nick?
Thank you. The final minor subdivision plan for lands of Clayton Lapley proposes to subdivide the existing parcel identified as 35061-006, which has a total area of 86 acres, and create two separate lots. Proposed lot 1 is to be the new building lot and will have a total area of 1.15 acres, and lot 2 will be the residual lot with a total of 84.89 acres. Proposed lot 1 fronts along Devonshire Road. However, access to the lot is proposed via a new driveway connection to Hampshire Road. No direct vehicular access is proposed from Devonshire Road. The site is located in the R1 Low Density Residential District and will be served by private sewer and private water supply. Planning Commission members, we do have waiver requests. The applicant is seeking a waiver of the requirement that the plan scale shall not exceed 1 inch equals 60 feet. The applicant is seeking a waiver to allow for a plan scale of 1 inch equals 150 feet to fit on the sheet. And there is an enlargement of the project area shown on 1 inch equals 40 feet to make the plan more readable. We are in support of the waiver for the reasoning that's been provided by the applicant. The applicant is seeking a waiver of the requirement to provide a wetland study. The applicant seeks relief due to no wetlands being observed in the project area. He did note that wetlands may exist at the southern portion of the property and will not be impacted. We are in support of this waiver request, as the plan is intended solely to subdivide the two lots, and the wetland study would be better performed with future plans that may be submitted for the development of the properties. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement to provide all existing features on the property extending a minimum of 100 feet beyond the property's boundary. The applicant seeks relief due to the limited nature and small scope of the project. We do not support the waiver request, as features such as utilities, driveway structures on surrounding properties, and other items required by this section should be shown on the plan to clearly depict the existence relative to the subdivision. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement to provide all existing contours on the property and extending a minimum of 100 feet beyond the property's boundary. The applicant seeks relief due to the limited nature and small scope of the project. Again, we are not in support of this waiver request, as topography extending within 100 feet of the parent tract being subdivided should be shown on the plan to clearly depict the state of the lands relative to the subdivision. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement to provide street trees. The applicant seeks relief due to the fact that ample street trees currently exist along Devonshire Road and Hampshire Road. This waiver request, this section was referenced in air. We have requested the applicant to submit a new waiver request with the appropriate section referenced. We just recently received that waiver request for the street trees, which is section 180, 515E1. That's something that we can discuss as the meeting continues. The applicant is seeking a waiver of the requirement to provide conservation easements for natural features. The applicant seeks relief due to the limited nature and small scope of the project. The remainder of the property will be unaffected and undisturbed. We do not support this waiver request, as significant natural features depicted on the plan shall be preserved and protected from any future development. There are also deferrals. The applicant is requesting a waiver from the requirement to provide sidewalk along the roadway frontages bordering the subdivision. There are no sidewalks adjacent to the property. We support the waiver request as the sidewalk is being proposed to be constructed once the properties are improved in the future and the plan intends to solely subdivide the property. The applicant is requesting a waiver for the requirement to provide curbing along the roadway frontages bordering the subdivision. The applicant seeks relief due to the fact that curbs currently do not exist in the area. We support the waiver request as curb is being proposed to be constructed once the properties are improved in the future and the plan intends to solely subdivide the property. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the requirement to provide stormwater management plan at the time of formal submission of the subdivision plan. The deferral is requested due to the fact that no improvements are proposed at this time. We are in support of this request as stormwater management plans will be submitted as part of the building permit process. And just to be clear, regarding the sidewalk deferral, because the way I read it may have provided some confusion, the applicant is looking to defer the sidewalk installation until a later date with future construction, development of adjacent properties. Commission members, with that, if there's any questions for myself, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Actually, just a philosophical issue. Years ago, it was a priority for the planning commission to have interconnectedness. And what we had was waiver after waiver for sidewalks. And it was a battle with Memorial Eye on Linglestown Road. So here's the issue, and I just had this in another form I was dealing with. Deferral doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen. It means it's deferred. And the next owner may not be this owner. What is the land zone? Is this R2, R1?
The land zoned R1.
So here's the thing, I get that they don't want to do it and it's just a subdivision for one house. However, the price to do these studies is not going to decrease over time. And I don't want to sidetrack a project because of that, but you know, the same thing with the wetlands. We've had projects right now, the Crawl property, that are stuck because of wetlands. We don't know how much, we don't know how significant. Where Elizabeth Village is, that property was purchased by St. Margaret Mary, and it was discovered there were more wetlands than anticipated. So I don't know, you know, when we start looking at these and say, you know, the players on the field now are not going to be the players if and when the land is developed. So I don't know how you secure a commitment. I understand the deferral makes sense, but my experience has been, especially with the sidewalks, then we had that problem with Blue Ridge. There's still not sidewalks. I mean, so I don't know what our enforcement power is, and I look at actually the property when you look at it would have been great as a solar farm. Regardless of whatever people thought, I thought it was tailor-made for that. But you have several of these waivers that you do not support the staff. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So when we vote, are we voting with that in mind, that this will come to pass, but they'll address at a later date?
Are you referring to the deferrals that we're in support of, or?
The waiver request, which you said.
Oh, the waiver request that we're not in support of?
Right.
That would be through discussion tonight, but that would be that they have to show those improvements on the plan itself.
So I'm just trying to understand the process. So we would approve that with the presumption that issue would be dealt with before, is there another vote after this?
Well, so planning commission is still an advisory council. It would go on to the board of supervisors, and ultimately, a plan wouldn't be able to be recorded until all of the comments are satisfied.
All right, so then the answer is yes, they have to be dealt with. That be satisfied.
Yes, unless the applicant can persuade the planning commission tonight when they introduce the plan.
Well, hope they're persuasive. I had a couple other, but I would have yielded to other members.
Any other questions of Nick? No?
Yeah, I just had one or two more, Madam Chair, if that's okay.
Sure.
This is what happens when you don't have anything to do on the weekend. So, I'm trying to get my handle on the plot. I went over this week ingress and egress is off Devonshire?
The access to the property would be coming off of Hampshire Road. That's to the south of the lot. It's the drive, to the, how could I describe that? To the south, that comes off of Devonshire Road, shown on the plan. We have to, bear with me.
Yeah.
Let me switch locations here.
I'm at Ancient, and I couldn't walk that far.
So, in looking at the plan, you can see that the access is being proposed coming off of Hampshire Road to the south. And I think that's shown more clearly, where is that at here? Top right, you said? Oh,
Top right corner.
sorry. Right here, there we go.
Yeah, can you just put the, yeah, thank you.
Is that better?
Well, yeah, I mean, my eyes are failing me, but probably should get glasses, but
Oh.
if they say it works.
So the frontage is still along Devonshire Road, where you're ultimately seeking the deferrals for the improvements for curbing and sidewalk is where that would be installed.
Which is different from where you access the site.
That's correct, yes.
Show me again where you access it, I'm just,
All right, I'm going to,
yeah, you'd be my best friend.
so if you see the upper right-hand corner, the blown-in detail, the expanded detail with Hampshire Road, and then past the intersection here,
So the exemptions they want, are not on Hampshire, they're all for Devonshire.
yeah, the deferrals for the sidewalk, and the curbing,
Yeah, I don't know Hampshire well, does that have sidewalks?
no.
Okay, so I guess the question is, that's a lot of land there, and they have, by right, can develop, they're gonna get part of the double digits should they choose. Would Hampshire still be the main route in and out?
That I don't know. I'd have to see how this would get designed. Hampshire Road is a liquid fuels road through the township. I don't believe it's constructed to township standards, right?
It's a T, it's just a strip of pavement through the entire, finger.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's not built to handle a lot of traffic.
Google Maps. Okay. Bear with me here. We'll get another view here.
Nick, sorry about that. I didn't have my mic on. I usually am more voluble, not verbal. I guess just planning into the future, because a lot of things are putting off to the future. I get it. My experience has been with sidewalks. It's always been a challenge to get people to put sidewalks in. And if that was part of our comp plan, also part of the almost park and recreation, you know, we probably, somebody other than me or another body needs to address that. But just the way I see it broken out, it almost reminds me of the Prawl property. It'd be hard to develop that intensely with the current traffic patterns. Because they would either be popping out on Devonshire or this other area.
Okay, I think this gives us a better
Yeah, oh, yeah.
perspective of the lot. Here's the access of Hampshire Road.
So the access to that road is down past the church parking lot and Sprint and the old Spring Gate? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I'm not familiar with that road either. Okay.
Look, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. My assumption is the road as now is would not be able to service a lot of traffic. And somebody who would want to develop it would have to address that.
That's correct.
It is a 50-foot wide roadway.
Okay. And how do you think that impacts the plan?
Well, the owner has no intention of doing anything other than selling off
But see, my point is this, is that, and I know the Lapleys, actually, I hope she's not watching, I used to date Gwen. Because I was not warmly welcomed by the family, as you could imagine. But their grandfather acquired a lot of the property. He was a prominent architect, all right? Then Mr. Lapley had it. I don't think I ever was allowed to call him by his first name. And now Gwen. So my assumption is the chain of custody so far has stayed in the family. Even if it stays in the family, it doesn't mean the next generation doesn't want a development.
Well, and that's why you put notes on the plan, making that a requirement of any future development.
Well, and what was that? The easement?
Well, just anything you want to do to protect the township's interest in future development, those become legal record, public record. And that's how other municipalities can handle it.
Yeah, I don't know who you are. You seem well informed.
Yeah, Mark Romeo, Romeo Land Surveying, representing.
Yes. I
Lapley's.
saw your name.
Okay. And I prepared the plan, but,
I saw that.
and I've done these kind of, I do only minor subdivisions. I leave the other ones to the big boys. But,
Yeah, you look like a pretty big boy.
we have 2 employees.
Okay.
Anyway,
Double what I got.
I've seen this done where conditions are put onto the plan in note form, and they become part of the record, and that protects the municipality for these things being, like you said, kick the can further and further down the road. And if there is any major development, all of those things would have to be done. I mean, no township planning and zoning department is gonna let that happen.
Well, let me just say this. I've been involved in land use and development in and around it for a long time. And developers can get very creative. They have unbelievable legal acrobatic skills.
There's no developers involved in this plan.
But there will have to be, I'm just saying down the road, the intent is clear that it's not going to be developed now. All I'm asking is that the option is preserved to develop it at R1.
Sure, yeah, and that's why you have people like Nick and Amanda and yourselves to protect the township's interest down the road.
Yeah, I don't want to be argumentative, but what I'm trying to say is the players on the stage change,
Of course.
as do the supervisors and priorities. Well, it's nice to finally meet you. I read your work.
I'm happy to answer any other questions from the commission.
Well, we need to beat up Nick first.
Go for it.
So Nick, just so I understand the process, this will be the last opportunity for the planning commission to offer comments before it goes to the supervisors.
In the event that the plan receives a condition of approval, then it would be your last opportunity. If there was an issue that were to come up this evening where the planning commission wasn't comfortable, then you would have an opportunity to review the plan again and vote on it.
Well, let me be frank, and Mr. Romeo is here. I thought the initial plan was lacking details. And so I don't normally, want to uphold something, but I just want to make sure that these issues are rectified.
I think from where our perspective is in reviewing it, and I believe HRG can certainly attest to this, that more of a housekeeping issues that we can certainly tighten up during the review process. Knowing what the intent of the plan is, we support what's being shown with the one lot subdivision. I use this word kind of loosely, but the plan itself doesn't appear to be too controversial where it gives us much heartburn, as long as Mr. Romeo is able to address the comments from this evening. We feel that this plan could be moving forward.
Nick, final comment is, I agree with you, but whatever we do is also can be interpreted as a precedent.
Understood.
And I just have one comment to add. You're going to get another bite at this apple, because this isn't the only development that's going to come out of this property. Someday they're going to develop this property further, and you're gonna get a chance to get the curbs and sidewalks and things like that.
I think from my perspective, if we had, like Mr. Romeo said, if there were notations on this that said that the waivers that they're asking for, the deferrals that they're asking for would, be completed set amount of time, or if there was additional development, I'd be more amenable to saying yes to a plan like this. But too often, what I've noticed since I've been here is that people say, you know, well, we'll do this later, and it doesn't get done. You know, as Eric said, what happens if the person that owns that property sells it to somebody else and they go, well, we're not doing that, they said that, we have no intention of abiding by that. So without some kind of assurance that this stuff can be taken care of or will be taken care of, it's difficult for me to vote yes on this plan.
So I can understand the perspective of where you're coming from with that. If these deferrals were approved, same as a waiver, to not have to construct something, they're approved within perpetuity. The applicant is still required to put up a financial amount in the form of an improvement guarantee to ensure that that infrastructure gets installed at some point down the line. I think it's installed, put up at a price of what, 110%?
Yeah, it's 110% of the cost to construct the improvements, and then the municipality has the option to increase that 10% each year that passes that the improvements haven't been installed.
That's not the case for this one, correct? Bond.
If you're gonna comment, I can't, I mean, I can't hear you.
Just to be clear, to address Mr. Frayne comment, these notations that would put on a plan are binding legal restrictions. And that's why municipalities doing it to protect themselves for the future. And as Nick stated, they are in perpetuity. And I just wanted to clear up any possible confusion that the staff here mentioned about bonds. That would be for future applicants, correct? I mean, there's no bond required for capital improvements for this plan.
Well, I think all of that could be considered with this plan if
And
the
the kid's never
township
gonna build a
desired to
house.
do so.
Then he's never gonna be able to build a house.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen either. I don't know, it's constructive to go down that road. I mean, it seems to me to be a pretty easy, doable thing, but, you know, and paying attention to detail is really important. Once you don't do that, the little things become big things. That's just been my experience. So, I never met Gwen's kids, and I don't know if that is Gwen's or Clayton's son. Okay. But look, they have their own lives and their own priorities, and that real estate is going to be valuable. I'm really grateful for the Lapleys for keeping it the way it is. One house is not a big impact, but I guess the concern I have is that Hampshire Road. At some point, that is the road they'll come in on. Okay.
Can I add something here? And I think, excuse me, I
Bless
think
you.
Lori mentioned it. Any subsequent development that happens on the residual tract would have to come back here for a land development review. So you'd be going through all of this process again, whether it's subdivision or land development. So any of those waivers, like the conservation easements, the wetland reviews, all of that would kick back. They're not excused from that.
But
It's-
Andrew, the point I'm trying to make, when somebody else purchases the land and develop it, they have the opportunity to address those issues and perhaps not have to implement them. I mean, is there anything that keeps them by saying, look, there was a waiver back in this year, in order to develop it, we need this to go away?
The waiver passed on this plan would not necessarily apply to the next application.
Right. No, I'm saying in general, when you say in perpetuity, that makes me nervous because I think, and I've seen developers come in and rearrange zoning and precedent and things of that not. I'm just asking a technical question. If the next entity comes in, with the sidewalks, there would be nothing keeping them from challenging that. They could come in and say, hey, can we get a waiver also?
They can ask him, it would be up to this body and the elected officials to grant it or not. I mean, that's the decision, that's the land development process. It's not, there's nothing you can do tonight other than require them to put the sidewalk in right now. There's
Oh,
nothing you
Andrew.
can do tonight to negate that possibility of them asking in the future. Like, they're gonna ask and the township's gonna decide. That's the process.
Yeah, but this is a political process, not here, but the next phase. And I've never heard a developer come in and say, I bought a parcel of land, and do you mind if I give it more green space? I mean, the pressure is always density, you know, more product. And it seems with the Hampshire Road is nothing's gonna happen there until there is a development. So, yeah, it's a subdivision, it's 1 acre, this should be approved, I get it. To me, the language it always winds up being negotiable.
But at the end of the day, the commission and the board of supervisors have the hammer.
Yeah, but I have the hammer now.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be there at the end of the day, which could be for me tonight, I don't know. But, I'm an anti-kick the can down the road kind of guy. I've seen developments in this township that I had a problem with. I'll just leave it at that, Mark.
Yep.
Okay. If there's no other questions, HRG?
Sure, so you may have noticed we did issue 2 separate review letters just within a few days of one another. The main reason for that was the submission of the written waiver requests. So the letter that I'll be referencing tonight is the July 31st letter that takes into consideration those waiver requests. We're in lockstep with staff on the recommendations for those waiver requests and deferrals. I think that's another important thing to recognize is just the difference between what a waiver is and a deferral is. The waiver essentially means that the plan as drafted does not have to meet that particular requirement of the ordinance. The deferral means, yes, that the plan does need to meet that requirement of the ordinance, but at a later date. So, say this property doesn't change hands, it doesn't get developed for 15 years, but in that time frame, the township does want the sidewalk or the curb improvements installed. They can ask for that really at any time. To give some background on our justification for recommending denial of the existing features being shown within proximity to the lots. There are a lot of utilities that are missing from the plan that we feel would be important to show, just because it's, who knows how they're gonna develop these properties in the future, particularly Lot 1 with the planned residential dwelling. It would be nice to know where those utilities are gonna serve that lot, as that seems to be planned for development more immediately. There's also, if Nick showed the aerial imagery, there's several driveways, several structures on adjacent properties that would be helpful to know how they are located relative to the subdivision. And I don't even feel like they need to be survey grade located on the plan. I would be open to just using some of this aerial imagery to locate some of those prominent features.
It's already done, actually. I
Okay.
revised the plan.
Great. Similarly with the topography, I'm not expecting you guys to go and survey the entire neighborhood here.
Yeah,
We'd be
I-
open to LiDAR topography.
I have
as
no
well.
problem with that. My main, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the main thing I wanted to talk about was the conservation easements. I mean, I get, I
Just
got no
Mark-
problem
Mark-
showing the top.
Mark, let me ask the chair. I don't know what the proper protocol is, but my preference would be to let HRG finish, and then you can
Okay.
ask away.
Will do.
I think Nick referred to the majority of these comments as housekeeping. I would tend to agree with that. A lot of them are clerical, not impactful to the actual intent of the plan. Just some additional details that need to be shown, some additional notes that need to be added. In regards to the conversation we had about access to the lots before, my understanding is the intent of this plan is just to solely subdivide Lot 1 from the parent tract and then come back later for a stormwater management plan, zoning plan for Lot 1. If that is the case, I would recommend that we don't even show the proposed home, the proposed driveway on Lot 1 and handle that at the time that stormwater plan would come in. I think there is a lot of uncertainty about the ability of Hampshire Road, particularly because there's really no means of tying into that without getting some kind of arrangement in place with the adjacent property owner. And even future development plans, if there are future lots or units that are proposed on Lot 2, viability of Hampshire Road would definitely need to be evaluated at that time. So I think that would be my biggest concern at this point with the plan is just let's focus on the intent of this plan, and anything that's going to be done in the future, I would prefer if that was not shown on the plan at this time.
This is where I'm having trouble generically, not necessarily on this plan. We pass laws, and the intent has nothing to do with the implementation of the laws. So we're saying here that there's a great value put on the intent as represented by the developer.
That's correct, because even if this subdivision happens, those plans can change, right? So maybe proposed Lot 1 doesn't end up being transferred or sold the way that we're expecting it to. If you show the improvements on the plan the way that they are now, it may give the expectation that those improvements are locked in to the approved plan, when that may not be the case if the development isn't to occur until the future.
It's not a criticism of this particular case, but what I'm saying is I've never known of a legislative statute, law, whatever, that's been overturned based on intent. And so now, when you defer to intent, it implies to me that the existing protocol, something's off. I mean, I've never seen a plan where people don't, again, it's not this property, come in with deferrals, waivers and everything. Never seen a clean plan in my life. So what you have to ask is, what are we doing here? I mean, because people normally come in for waivers, or deferrals rather, for sidewalk. But that's helpful. I didn't realize until tonight that intent was that much of a part of the plan. And the reason it concerns me is not because of Mr. Romeo, but some of the other developers in the area.
No, and it is a requirement of the ordinance that the intent of the plan is stated very clearly as a note. So that is something that we look for when we're reviewing these plans.
If I may, to go back to the access issue with Hampshire, what I've done since, and I've started addressing the comments from HRG, and I got them pretty much all done. But I'm going to add, I was hoping to add a 50-foot wide access easement, which is in essence still an easement, but an extension of Hampshire that would reserve that, use it as access now, and possibly reserve it for any future development. So the owner of Lot 1 does not have any issue with the remainder lot, because right now, the way I presented the plan, erroneously, was no access easement there. And it was traveling across Lot 2. And so we basically just extended Hampshire and called it a 50-foot wide access easement for the length of the property.
So if Hampshire, if the land was developed and Hampshire was upgraded, then this lot that we're voting on tonight would be proximate to increased traffic, or no? Because the question in my mind, he's got 80 acres, if you can develop it if you want, as long as it's within the guidelines, but in the future, I don't know that I would want to, situate a house next to what could be a heavily traveled.
My main reason for doing that was so if the driveway access for the new dwelling on Lot 1 does in fact go through, it would have to have an easement by law, because they can't just go across Lot 2's property without that. Does that make sense?
Kinda. I don't
And
like,
as far as Hampshire, I've driven down it. It's there's a residence down there, and the pavement goes. In fact, the residents there are using some of Lapley's land, park a camper and a couple of other things. But the pavement goes almost clear up to the property line. Should I bring that plan back up? Nick?
yeah, I didn't want to belabor the point, because some of the questions are more generic than site-specific.
Okay, yeah, it does depend on that. Yeah, and I have since taken the improvements off as HRG requested, and let me see if we can scroll that over.
So Hampshire's not a through road right now, is it?
No, it's a dead end, and there is a property right there that that uses Hampshire.
So let me ask you this, since we were talking about intent, has there been an intent from the township to make that a through road?
No intent from the township.
All right, can you see the driveway at the south end? Can you see the driveway at the south end of proposed Lot 1 that has a curve and it runs into Hampshire?
Yes.
Yeah, that curve of the driveway, that elbow is on proposed Lot 2. And so they would be required to have, I'm sure if a driveway was put in there, the township would require an easement. You simply can't use somebody else's land without, written consent.
I really didn't even know Hampshire existed until this
It's
proposed-
really just a vineyard. It's a,
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, had I known that when I was in high school, I certainly would have been drinking beer there, so that just escaped my prowess.
you might have and not remember it.
Yeah.
All right, so the other thing I wanted to discuss was, I really have no problem with HRG's and township staff denial of the request for waivers that show contours and natural features, that sort of thing. But in the same spirit that the wetland study was waived or recommended approval of the waiver, the conservation easement, I would either need some guidance on that as to what exactly they want an easement for. Is it just steep slopes or is it the creek and approach? But wetlands fall under that, so it's kind of like catch-22.
Yeah, I think it would be both, steep slopes, the slopes that are naturally occurring,
We got a few
exceeding
25s on there, yeah.
exceeding 25%, and the area within the stream corridor. I mean, that's Nye's Run. That's a pretty significant waterway.
So we can just offset the top of bank at the required distance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we can take care of that. And as I said, I've been through these comments, and I don't see anything in there that's gonna be too difficult otherwise. As far as the request for a bond for monuments, I will be setting the monuments before the plan's even recorded, so that's usually the way I do it.
Yeah, and that's an acceptable approach. We would just need to verify that they are set.
Yeah,
and
then
that
you-
everything's in before it gets
You'll-
recorded.
You'll send staff out to verify.
Yep.
Yep. So as far, just to be clear here, when I'm revising the plan, as far as the waivers go, I will, let me go back to the front sheet here. We have, all right, we're gonna leave on the first two, curb, sidewalk, street trees, we'll update the number on that. Wetland study, we'll leave that on there, stormwater management. There was one, Nick, you said was coming off, which one was that?
That would have been the requirement for the traffic impact study.
Oh,
He had-
okay.
Yeah, it wasn't required.
Okay. And I think I have to add in there's one missing there, maybe it was a conservation easement. I'll just go back to the comments and update those. All right. I think that's it on my end.
Andrew, do you have anything?
I know.
I-
Go ahead.
Okay. From county perspective, I'd echo a lot of the concerns about the access. That's kind of what caught my eye. I will point out that while the intent currently may be to access it through Hampshire Road, once this lot is created, there's nothing really preventing anything from being accessed directly from Devonshire Road. That's a township road. So that could this is kind of like a rezoning. Once it's done, everything possible, everything allowed under the ordinance can still happen if it's not specifically addressed on the plan.
Did I miss it? Was Hampshire identified in any
I mean,
documents
it's
that I read?
depicted on the plan, and we've been talking about it a bunch here, but if that lot is, essentially all we're doing tonight is creating a lot, that's it. That lot fronts Devonshire Road. If somebody comes in with a building permit that accesses Devonshire Road, theoretically that could happen if it meets all the other requirements.
But that's impacting only lot one?
Yes.
Not lot two, is that correct?
Well, I mean, they could come in with a building permit on lot 2 and put one house there. But yes, yeah, not the significant development we're talking about, that we had been talking
The
about.
worst case scenario we're talking about is even if they did do that for Devonshire, going out to Devonshire, you're talking about for one lot, for
Yes.
one property.
Yep.
So would-
I just wanted to make
realistically-
sure that was clear, just,
I know for right now, I mean, but had they, I mean, it can still be developed. It's zoned in a way that nothing precludes them from developing it. I understand tonight we're talking about one lot. Hampshire just seems to be not a great road.
It's,
I mean, that's all I'm saying, and,
sure.
you know, over the years, we've wound up backing into traffic issues. I mean, I'm gonna vote to approve this, and just it's a wider discussion, Andrew.
And my only other comment is regarding sidewalks. No problem with the deferral. I would encourage you to require an easement drawn on the plan so that when stormwater or other things are being cited on the lot, they're not being situated in a way that prevents future development of a sidewalk or pedestrian connectivity through the site. And I'd encourage that across the whole front, the parent tract and the, lots 1 and 2. And that's just a line on the plan, basically, and just another easement.
and where would that be?
Just along the frontage of just to provide room for,
But sidewalk would be in the public road right away. You wouldn't need an easement out there. You have 30-foot half width already.
if there's room for it there, sure.
I mean, any easement would have to be on the private property, and sidewalks typically don't go there.
Sure. I mean, it depends on the situation. There's plenty of times where we put sidewalks on private property, but
Yeah, that wouldn't necessitate a right-of-way taking.
Or an easement for pedestrian
Yeah,
mobility.
yeah.
Nick, have they submitted the last waiver for the improvements to existing streets? Have they provided that in writing? Did I miss that? On HRG's July 31st memo, under waivers number 11, provide improvements to existing streets, and it says that no formal request has been made in writing.
We've not received a, in the most recent waiver, no. The one that we received is for the correct section for street trees.
Okay, so in preparing for the motion, so they started out with 11 waivers, but we're taking off the traffic impact study, the existing features, existing contours, and the conservation easement. Is that correct?
As not being supported for the waiver.
Right. And then also, as a condition of the approval, to provide an easement for the driveway that goes onto Lot 2?
I don't know if that was part of the motion, but it's going to be a requirement of the plan. You can make that part of the motion, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, just let me back up one second. The 11th waiver, actually, I'm sorry, it would now be the 10th, but with the traffic study out. Which comment is that on HRGs?
It's under their requested waivers, number 11, provide improvements to existing streets.
Number 11. Oh, that's on the August 5th one, or the,
I'm looking at their July 31st. Didn't you say that was the latest one?
oh, I see it, okay. Yeah, that one would have to, right, improvements. Didn't I have 503 on there already? Oh, okay,
Yeah, that one was, it was listed on the
Yeah,
cover sheet of the plan, but it was not
I see that.
captured in the waiver request letter that followed.
and it was the mismatch on the verbiage and the section number, right? Yeah, because I had the 503A9 as street trees. Okay, so we will have to add that one, and I would advise adding that to the motion tonight.
Okay.
Good catch.
Are we all, if there's nothing further?
Does anything else have to then be added for what Andrew was talking about with regard to the future for the possibility of the sidewalks on Devonshire?
I mean, you could even ask them to depict the sidewalk and label it for future development. The idea is to show it on the plan so that when they come in for a building permit, there's not a stormwater basin that ends up where the sidewalk would go,
Good idea.
or something
but-
else.
but-
Just on Lot 1?
Yeah, but that's,
You said it back on lot. the
You can
whole
do it on
across,
lot
which is
2.
Lot 2 as well.
I'm sorry?
You can do it across the entire, lot 1 and 2.
Okay.
again, but that's counter to the HRG comment about leaving the details off. As far as the stormwater, that's at the top of the hill, that right-of-way line, so there's not gonna be any stormwater there.
Okay.
But,
But we want to get this.
we could
over.
add it in the form of a note that the township reserves a right to access a portion along Devonshire Road for future sidewalk if necessary by way of an easement.
Okay.
Are you opposed to the detail based on HRG's comment? I mean, is that why you'd rather have a?
Well, HRG had us taking detail off, and then county wants us to add a sidewalk.
But I'm saying, is that the only reason you oppose that? It's because it's inconsistent language in your mind?
Well, that and the fact that I don't think the township is ever gonna put a sidewalk across somebody else's property along Devonshire Road. If they're gonna put a sidewalk, they have a 60-foot wide right-of-way. It's gonna go there.
Okay.
22-foot wide pavement currently. They could add another lane in each direction and still have sidewalk and curb.
No, you're much more optimistic than I am.
right, I'm going to try and make this motion.
Thank God it's not.
Since my cohorts have
Oh,
passed it on.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Yeah.
I think you may need to ask for the motion.
okay. And if I don't get one, then I can make it, right?
If they don't get it right, you can make it.
All right,
You can, on Jeopardy, ask it in the form of a
okay.
Nick, are you saying the chair can't make the motion?
They're not supposed to.
The chair's not supposed to.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's okay, that's okay.
Can you make a motion to have the chair make the motion?
All right, I'm going to call, I am going to call for a motion on this plan. Do I have a motion?
But Bill, is it with public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I always forget public comment.
No, Bill's not gonna let you.
I have some public comment.
Okay. You're supposed to remind me.
William Miller. I went onto the website. I wasn't able to pull up any. You have documents in front of you. I couldn't see any of this to prepare to come in here tonight. And I feel at a big disadvantage to be able to ask any informed questions. Furthermore, I thought that there was a Greenway Committee. The Greenway Committee is supposed to see some of these things because there is a wealth of information there to look at some of these sidewalks. My question is along the Devonshire Road. How wide is that road going to have to be with some future development? I tend to look at things 10, 20, 30 years down the road, like the Colonial Road Corridor, the Goose Valley Road Corridor, the Earl Drive Corridor, with all this development. And I think it's incumbent upon us to think, are we going to need more space there? So where will those sidewalks go? And I do believe in the fact it was mentioned, there needs to be an easement where these sidewalks are going to go. So, as HRG mentioned, there's nothing else going to be impeded by them and they can be done. So are we really at the point where this is something you want to vote on? I think there's a lot of questions. I mean, everybody's going to hate me, but I think there's some questions in here that need to be answered. And based on what the total build out of that parcel would be, is there anything else that would be recommended? Another exit, I don't know, an exit onto Devonshire, which would be, interesting. But, all the utilities, all the things that have to happen. What else? I was going to mention, you had mentioned, there's almost a 91 to 92% waiver granting deal going on since 1997, based on some documentation obtained by people who studied all those grants.
Is that generically or in the township?
That's here in Lower Paxton. That's what we were told, and it can be shown. It can be demonstrated to you by some individuals.
Well, then I'd like to meet with some individuals because that's a pretty bold.
You would have to contact. I guess we were chided by a former manager. We can't talk about. I am on that committee. And they went through all the records, pulled every record, and they consolidated it. So Jim Seidler would be the person, or
Yeah,
Rachel.
I know Jim. I don't have a problem with Jim, the person who used to work here as a manager.
Well, I talk. I'm
But
proud of that
there's
committee.
only one that George.
Yes.
The other entity that was deported, is that the person who?
Perhaps.
Okay.
But I just think that there would be connections to be made. Things have been lost since the 60s and 70s. It was the rule of thumb, you're going to have sidewalks. But in this case, they can be put in later, but you have to have that easement. And if you're going to be doing and I don't know how wide you want the road to be, if they're going to develop a lot, how wide does it have to be? Do we have to, you're going to move over here, we're going to move some more dirt and get all that grading done initially so that later on, it's easy? Because Mr. Epstein said, sometimes once you let it go, it isn't easy at all. Oh, we can't do it now. We made a mistake, and it's not going to happen. But the easement is a great term to use. I would have liked to have seen these plans. I would have liked the Greenway Committee to have seen these plans you're contending also with these roads now with your e-bikes and all these other things we have to worry about. We have to provide what I feel are accommodations for. I just don't know if it's, I don't want to hold up anybody building a house, but it could be very simple, and I always defer to Mr. Garrett knows, their expertise is great.
Maybe time to defer to me now?
That's why I saw you moving, so.
So, as a to Mr. Miller previously, agenda goes out to the general public. Anytime you see a plan, please go to the community development website page. You'll see the plan right now.
Okay.
Real time, it's right there.
All right.
As for connectivity along Devonshire Road, the township has adopted an official map. We are all intimately aware of that map. You can look at Devonshire Road right now and see to the opposite side of Devonshire Road that I believe there was a bike pedestrian connectivity that is mixed use path that's shown there. So there is proposed connectivity along Devonshire Road. So there are items that have been addressed and thought about. Mr. Miller was a part of that, along a lot of individuals. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, I want you to know, nothing you could do would make us hate you.
Just to be clear, regarding I think there's just a confusion over the term easement versus public right-of-way. Public right-of-way is the easement that the township needs for sidewalks. Virtually every public sidewalk in the township is within the public road right-of-way. Very few public sidewalks go across private land, and that's what the 60-foot width covers. I'm not sure the exact classification of Devonshire. Is that a collector?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why it's 60.
Yep.
And virtually, well, I would say probably 75% of the roads in the township are 50-foot wide. And, the collectors and the...
What's it now? What is
The
Hampshire
actual cartway width is approximately 22 feet. The public road right-of-way is 60.
The actual road that you traverse is 22 feet.
22 feet right now. And they have approximately an additional 19 feet on each side for widening. That's township owned. And as I said, I believe that's plenty of room for an additional lane and curb and sidewalk on each side.
So
And
the
if they
rest
need
of
more,
that
they'll
pro-
take it. The township will
there's
eminent
enough
domain it.
room to widen
It's also
it.
a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that's why it's 60 and not 50. And
Okay.
you could shorten all the verbiage by just citing the sections and not having to read them all out.
Any further public comment? Okay, do I have a motion? How about that?
Nobody wants to read them all off.
Oh, boy.
Very courageous, Avery.
I make a motion that we approve the final subdivision plan for the lands of Clayton Lapley, Plan 2606. The final subdivision plan for the lands of Clayton Lapley proposes to divide the existing parcel 35061-06. The total area of 86.0534 acres, divided into two lots, one lot being 1.1536 acres, and lot two would have a residual lot of 84.8994 acres. And this would be approving all the waiver requests, administrative comments, and all the deferrals, from county and HRG. What else do I need to add in there?
Well, not all the waiver requests.
Yeah, you gotta take action on the
We have
waivers.
to eliminate the existing features, the existing contours, and the conservation easements.
Which is what? Okay,
I don't know if you can read my writing.
all right. Then we
Existing
also,
features.
delete the existing features
Existing
and-
contours,
and the existing contours and conservation easements.
and then
Provide an easement
for the driveway,
for the driveway.
and then on a note on the plan regarding an easement
Okay, note on the plan regarding the easement
along the
along the
the
entire
side.
property.
for the sidewalk, or we decided we didn't need that, correct? I'm so confused.
Or we could show the easement on the proposed lot 1. I don't know what the planning commission's determination was on what you would want to do on proposed lot 2. We've had discussion, I don't know where it ended.
If I may, can we handle that in the form of a note saying the township reserves a right to add an additional easement for sidewalk if needed along the frontage of Devonshire Road for lots 1 and 2?
Sounds fair.
Yes, that's what I think my note to
That's
us
what we should-
said,
Yeah, I think depicting a line with a dimension kind of is limiting. They may need more.
I think it would be helpful if the recording secretary read back what we're voting on.
I second that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, it's a heavy lift. Everett, you did a great job. But I'm not sure, actually, at this point, with all the modifications and accommodations.
If you caught everything, yeah.
Yeah. Then I don't want to put you on the spot, which I just did, so.
You also have the right to update it, right? Amend it.
Well, I mean, we have the right to, I guess, not approve the minutes moving on.
Should I be calling?
I mean,
Okay, I think we have a motion on the floor. If, am I allowed to review it?
yeah,
Okay, so,
please.
am I allowed to review it?
Oh, you can, we were thinking this, you could simply have, make a motion to support the recommendations of staff regarding, the waivers that were recommended for approval and the deferrals.
Okay,
And then we could leave it at that, since we have the, comment letter and memorandum that would, what's the word, document,
okay.
memorialize, whatever.
So that would be appended to Everett's motion. Is that correct?
No, I think, Nick, you're saying that is the motion?
That is the motion.
That is the motion. The one thing I'd want to pick up, oh my goodness, is that street trees within the waiver itself, we would need to make a motion whether or not we would support it or not, since we did get it in writing.
Let me ask you this, because the rub here is that we have a motion, and
Right.
we're concerned about the verbiage.
All right.
Can we pass it conditioned on a review of the verbiage? I mean, I think everybody would be, I think they know what they're voting on.
Yes,
I
Although I've
think
never
that-
seen this many comments for an acre.
I think that's prudent.
Okay.
no problem with that.
Yeah, if we could add that to the motion.
Do you hear that? What are we adding, that we approve?
That we approve it pending review of the verbiage.
Okay.
Verbiage, okay.
Friendly amendment.
From staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That was a doozy.
Okay.
All right, thanks for your time. One thing I might add about the 90-plus percentage of waivers, it's difficult. Ordinances are difficult for a township this complex, and I see it on the West Shore where I live too, that they have to protect the township's interests here, but that doesn't apply here. So waivers are unavoidable when ordinances get this big.
See, but the problem with waivers or deferring is that the test is almost always pro-development. It's rarely pro-conservation, pro-land preservation. The people doing this are doing it to save money, or, more density, or whatever, so that's all
I
I'm
know,
saying.
I worked in the industry, yeah.
Well, no, I'd hope so, since your name is on this.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, you're free to
Thanks,
stay and watch the next,
I don't wanna, yeah. If I don't get out of here,
all
now
right,
I'm never
Mark,
gonna get out.
you're done, man.
You good. Okay.
Holy crap.
Can we take a break now? Moving on to the next new business, Devonshire Road Concept Plan, informal discussion.
Planning Commission members, we have a rendering of a potential development off of Devonshire Road. The applicant is still within their due diligence period as they are researching the land and still investigating the land development requirements and what staff's position would be on this type of development. We have Jake Krieger here with RLA to represent the plan and would like to discuss the layout.
Good evening. Jay Krieger from RGS. We're here before you this evening just with an informal sketch plan. We'd just like to have a discussion on this potential project and get your feedback on a couple topics and anything else that you have questions on. So I'll just give a brief overview of the project and a couple points. You can feel free to interrupt me or we can kind of review some points after I review the plan. The project is located along the south side of Devonshire Road, across from the Costco's. You can see the pork chop on the north part of the plan. That's the entrance into the Costco's across Devonshire. The property consists of 7 acres and is currently a vacant lot. The rear portion of the lot consists of steep wooded slopes. It's located in the R2 zone, and the project proposes 38 townhome units along 32-foot wide private
Right,
streets.
38 units on 7 acres?
Yes.
Okay, and how much of that land is steep slope?
The back portion that's kind of it doesn't have elements on it, so it's probably 1.5 acres to 2 acres of steep slopes.
So it's 38 units minus 1.5 acres from the 7 acre. Is that, I'm just trying to, because it looks pretty dense. So the amount of land you said is what, 7
or roughly 7 acres.
all right, 7. And so then you're taking away another 1.5 acres because of the steep slopes. Am I following you?
Well, the density is based on the whole parcel.
Now, I know what you're saying, but the reality is that 5.5 acres, your proposal is for 38 units on that.
Yeah, on the front portion of the acreage. Yep. 2 access points are proposed off of Devonshire Road, one across from Costco's and the other second along the western boundary. All units were proposed at 2-car garages. An additional on-street space will be provided for guests along kind of the boundaries and within the development. The units are proposed with a few unique design elements to allow them to front Devonshire and provide rear access into garages. And areas of internal green space are also proposed. And part of what we're looking to do is to promote green space both around units and surrounding them.
Where would the green space be?
So some of the green spaces, you can see on the right, there's a little loop trail potential. We'll have to figure out where stormwater goes. There'll be obviously the steep slopes areas, but then in between some of the units, we have kind of green lawn areas that the units front on.
And that's what you're referring to as green space then?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's proposed as a condominium unit, so all areas outside of the buildings would be considered, would be owned and maintained by the HOA. Per discussions with staff and your engineer, we understand that these will be considered private streets and not an access drive.
Thank you. Man, where were you an hour ago?
And in order to achieve this type of development as on private streets where you have condominium units with everything else around them being privately owned and maintained, we would need to, some waivers would be required to help us achieve that. And it has not been fully vetted about every waiver that we might need, but these are just a few that we've looked at that might be needed to help achieve a design like this.
How wide is the private street?
32 feet. That is in alignment with the street standards, the 32-foot width.
Yeah, it may be, but we've gone through this before, and I'm now representing the district, how do we turn a bus around? Because some of that space, I think you said is gonna be reserved for visitor parking.
Yeah, so if you can see, there's two ways in, and it fully loops. So there would be no need for a bus to turn around. They would be able to fully loop through the development. And 32 feet wide, meets the minor street standards, which allows parking along it and then access through the streets.
Would you be able to park on either side of the street?
I think you would only be able to park on the one side because the other side would be access to driveways and garages.
All I'm saying is that these plans, no matter how idealistic they are, present, we need to make sure that we can get school buses and emergency
Sure.
vehicles through, and people tend not to really care about that when they're parking off-street.
Sure. So one of the items we would like your feedback on are the waivers that might be needed to achieve this with the private streets. And they include internal intersection separation, horizontal radiuses, the use of an alley, which there's one instance on the top, the street that kind of cuts closest to the top. There's the smaller garages that front that. We'd like that to be an alley feel, which would allow access to those garages. Intersection radius, street trees, and sidewalks.
Excuse me, so an alley, which I thought seems more like a TND. I'm not, so
Yes.
So you're envisioning, okay, alleys and then,
So-
on-street parking.
Yeah, so the reason of the list is just to kind of give you a few things that that we could be asking for and to just get your feedback. And some of it, like sidewalks and street trees, we're intending on providing trees through the development and sidewalk connections internally. But, locations where there's driveways and garages fronting wouldn't necessarily put them on both sides or have the space to put street trees in between every unit. The two access points along Devonshire are posed as I noted, and we understand from your engineer that the township is looking to limit access to Devonshire where possible, and we're still exploring this, but the applicant will be open to limiting the access on the western access to limited movement to kind of help with that, but still provide the emergency access needed. The applicant would also be open to extending a sidewalk trail along Devonshire Road, which from just a previous discussion, but also discussion with staff, we understand is a goal of the township. And then the last big item we'd like your feedback on is the Wilshire Road stub. So if you notice on the plan, bottom right corner, there's a road that ends right at our parcel, Wilshire Road. This was from our previous development. And it was shown as a stub, and while we understand it was stubbed for potential extension, we do not believe it was planned or engineered for feasibility, as there's a 25 to 30 foot grade from that lower elevation up to the upper part in the first 150 feet. And this is wooded and steep slopes, which generally is protected by the township ordinance. The extension is also not shown as a future or concept road on the township roadmap or comp plan. And the other point just is that the extension of this road would actually create additional traffic as vehicles can cut through from Wilshire up to there.
We did at Stray Winds, we had 3 roads that, again, the intention was to make them through roads. And the developer in this instance agreed to put that in writing that they, will not pursue that option. Is that something you would entertain?
I'm not understanding what you're.
You say you have a stump and it was anticipated there'd be a connection, right? If I'm listening to you, you're saying that you don't think that connection is advisable.
Yes.
All right. Is that something you would put in your plan?
As a note, yes, we could put a note stating that we don't believe it's advisable.
So is that area in and of itself, is it on somebody else's land or is it on your land?
So the Wilshire Road stub ends at the parcel line, but it is a public street.
Ergo, is it a public trail?
There are sidewalks along it.
Okay.
So for tonight, we're just, we're looking for your feedback. Happy to discuss the points we're looking for, any other questions you have.
Well, I guess the first is the streets. So why did you elect to go with now, private streets? A lot of, I know, condominium associations do, so that would be the responsibility of the HOA. Is there other options that are wider that you could consider?
As far as the street width,
Yeah.
we could certainly look into that, entertain it. I think our thought was that it's in line with the township street width standards.
Yeah, again, and I don't want to get bogged down on intent. Standards versus what happens in reality are kind of two. So if you could take that under advisement,
Sure.
That would be great. I'm uncomfortable, and I've said this before, which I think is Shady Brook. I mean, you're not asking, I think, for anything for so-called quote-unquote green space. In other words, you're not asking for extra density. You're just saying that that is green space, the green space between the units.
I mean, the space between the units is intended to be private green space to be utilized by the units.
Okay, but so it's not a communal asset. Basically,
No.
it's part of the yard.
It's part of the community for the development. It's not public, and there won't be public access to outside of the community. But this is something that the applicant has done in other locations where they design these units so the front yards face that. So that's a amenity as part of the
Yeah, I
development.
mean, that's their purview. I get it, but I just don't like it being represented as green space. I mean, to me, it's a yard, and that's great for them. And then I'm still uncomfortable with having alleys. I don't understand the purpose.
Good evening, Ryan Ball with the applicant. So I just wanted to highlight one of the...
I can't hear you.
Sorry. Just wanted to highlight one of the reasons for requesting the alleyway concept is, so if you can see, there's sort of 3 horizontal rows of townhome units. So in the lower 2/3 portion there, that's the central green space where both of those townhomes would front along that. So by minimizing the width
Yeah,
of
can
the
you show me
street.
where the central green space is?
This is the location that we're calling.
All right, so the central, can you go back to the central green space?
That's right in here.
So is it that entire box?
Correct. So these units and these units would front along that central green space. And so by minimizing the street width to the north along the alley,
Yeah, I
that
understand.
allows this to open up and serve as additional green space as opposed to sort of sliding the units closer together.
How much is that, how big is that green space there? Do you know the dimension?
It's roughly 60 to 70 feet.
All right, so it allows you to do that, and I understand it. It also allows you to have more density. I mean, the way the street, let me put it another way. You have 38, right, units proposed. If you didn't have, if you widen the streets, could you accommodate 30, or would that take away?
So, I mean, we could look at potentially widening. The reason for the alley also is because of the units that front it. So I think we're trying not to get parking in front of garages for that one alley. The rest of the streets are shown as wider. And, we could certainly look into if, a wider width than 32 feet is needed
Yeah,
for
I'd
those
appreciate that,
surrounding
but-
ones.
So the alley serves as.
It serves
alternate-
as access to the garages that fronted on both sides. So, is this the right? Is this
So it's not intended for parking, right?
It's not intended for parking. These blocks here are garages, and they access this alleyway here. So we wouldn't want cars parking in front of garages and blocking those units. And that's why the design of that one is a little more narrow. It still meets the minimum width. It would still meet the minimum width of 20 feet for kind of an access driver alley, but it would prevent the width for parking, and it would still allow emergency access vehicles through it and such as well.
So the garage has the ability to accommodate one or two vehicles?
Two vehicles,
And
all
then-
all
yeah.
garages.
Okay, I'll let other guys provide more eloquent questions.
And I just wanted to add one additional item. So the concept here is really a traditional neighborhood feel where you're not looking at a row of townhomes with garage doors in the front and crammed, or I'll say, the front entryways are slid together. So it's meant to preserve a traditional neighborhood feel by concentrate car traffic in and out off an alleyway, and then maintain pedestrian resident interaction along the fronts on porches and front
No,
access to the units.
but it's not a TND, right? It's zoned.
Correct.
All right, so that's you trying to adhere that concept to a land that's not zoned like that. And obviously, I don't know what's gonna happen down the road with the traffic study or whatnot. Do you have any idea how many kids that's gonna put in our schools?
I do not.
Yeah, if you could find that out, it would be great, because our bus is going in there, that's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, we can look into that.
What, I hate to say the second guy, what was your name again? It's not second guy,
Sure,
right?
Ryan,
All right.
Ryan Ball.
What was the last name? Where?
Ball, Boll.
Okay, yeah, I would've got it wrong too. Mhm. So with the sidewalks you have inside, that's only for the use of the community?
Yes.
Okay. And you're contemplating potential sidewalks on Devonshire? I wasn't really clear I understood that.
Yes, you can see we're showing portions of it in front of the units here. We're kind of proposing sidewalk. We had kind of stopped it because of wetlands, but after some discussion with staff, we understand that a greenway connection is desired there, and so I think we would be open to a connection that maybe comes inside around the wetlands, and obviously easements and things would need to be provided to allow the public access.
So
But
that's the only area where you have wetlands?
yes.
Out of curiosity, is there sidewalk connections on either the left or the right side of that currently?
I don't believe there are.
I don't think so either.
So my memory's slipping, so it's R2 is the zoning?
Yes.
It is, all right. Do you know what the pricing point is for the units?
A number of factors that would play into that, so we're still working through finalizing that. Obviously, the design plays into that.
So it's two-story, two-car garage, alley in the back, and the narrow streets out front is the concept. And then again, part of that concept is based on the TND concept.
Well, it's not necessarily based on the T&D concept. That's kind of how maybe the units are designed to look. However, the design is not based on a T&D concept, and it's just there's the one alley in between, but then the rest of the streets aren't proposed as narrow streets.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the TND would have retail and would actually look like an old time.
Yeah. This is not designed as a T&D or
That's obvious, yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Where are the garages for the units not having alleys?
So the garages for those, for these units, they'd be off the front, and that's kind of why they're turned sideways to not face Devonshire. And then these garages would actually be on this rear side back here.
So this is a generic question, and we've had challenges in the township with homes being turned into B&Bs and people behaving rather inappropriately. So that project is basically the domain of the HOA, including removing snow.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know that we have anything in the township that precludes somebody from converting their house to a B&B.
But bed and breakfast,
Yeah. Or no, whatever it is, bed and breakfast.
short-term rental?
No, well, or coming in the weekend and partying.
I mean, an official short-term rental is only permitted in 3 distinct zoning districts by special exception, and bed and breakfasts are not permitted in the R1 or R2. I mean, someone could rent out, could purchase the townhouse, and it could be a rental property that's a long-term rental, 30
Yeah.
days or greater.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at my notes where the complaints were coming from. Stormwater, where's that going?
So it's not been fully worked out at this time, but we'd be looking at kind of utilizing some of the lower portions of the site along this rear before the steep slopes, and then our natural drainage way is kind of up through here, so this would be another potential location. They're kind of highlighted in the dashed lines there.
Okay, so your land goes beyond where that southern face is? Does it drop all the way down?
Yes, our land is basically bordered by this dark dashed line.
And so wouldn't that be open space, that land there?
Down here, yes.
That seems like a substantial chunk of land.
Yes.
But you said that's mostly
It,
steep slope?
yeah, it's mostly steep slopes and wooded.
That's right, they did say that, yeah.
Argue that it's open space, but not really.
Well, you can't develop it, I got what you're saying, yes. Once again, Jeff outmatched me. So I guess the issue is, I think I know who the owner is, and I don't, the intent is not what I'm worried at. I'm really looking at impact and being able to, negotiate travel, pick up, emergency vehicles, school buses, and we need to see more. For me personally, I don't know about the others, because there's some details that aren't there.
Sure.
In widening the streets, I would like to see what that looks like.
Sure. Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your comments tonight. Just help to kind of give us direction. Again, I think the biggest thing for us is just is maybe a little more input, if you do have any, on the Wilshire Drive. Just that extension, that's an important piece to this. And so, if it's not a concern to extend it, that is helpful information. But if there is a concern about, I think that may be a topic that, if there is any more feedback. But if you're kind of all okay with that,
Well, where is Wilshire on here?
so
Bottom.
Yeah, I know.
down this corner down here.
Bottom.
Yeah.
How did I miss that? And it's your prerogative that if we said to you, just close it off and commit to that, you'd be okay?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I believe it would still remain as a public stub, but not be extended. Unless the township were to extinguish it, but that would be, your prerogative to do that.
And if I understood you correctly earlier, you said that you were concerned about trying to extend that because of the steep slopes and just the contour.
Yeah, it's 30 feet of grade between the street and the upper portion, and we did look into it, but it's 20 feet of cut just to get up the hill and steep road, and not quite feasible to be able to push that through and commit to a project.
Yeah, I don't see how that's doable.
It's not doable or it's not financially feasible.
Yeah.
Well, so while it may be technically feasible, beyond the construction costs and things that it adds, it does also have a pretty big impact to the development. Because it's a public road, it would, cut the parcel in half, and we'd have two parcels, and then, we would not be able to develop it in this manner because of it would basically bisect the tract. And so that would cut density down to a point that, at this point, just to, let's be honest, it would cut the density down that the project would not be feasible for the developer to want to develop it further if that, was extended through, essentially.
I apologize, could you restate that? If you were extending that road, why does that create that condition?
So, I'll just make sure I have my notes here. So, extending it through, would kind of cut through the property, and it would basically bisect the property, and so you'd have two lots, separate lots. And then because this development is proposed as a, private condominium, we wouldn't have these units fronting on a public street because they're all private units and wouldn't front that. They'd have to front off that private access. So that would cut density down significantly.
Okay, that makes sense.
But also had fundamentally changed Devonshire Road up there, because now that becomes the access to just
Yeah, I can't imagine any scenario. Andrew, yeah, can't imagine any scenario where connecting is a good idea, and somehow we survived without connecting it all these years.
Just one other question, so the current road that's in here would be private or would be dedicated to the town?
Private.
So when you were talking about the HOAs responsible for snow removal, et cetera, it's for everything?
For
inside the
everything.
street?
Snow removal, maintenance of the streets, everything.
Okay.
You talked about,
general comment. I think there's a lot of pedestrian activity. Street, big
Right.
shopping center. So this is a township. Ability to install pedestrians to cross that road. A lot of good places to cross. This probably makes sense. Going to kind of test and target a place so that drivers know where people are going, and kind of everybody, walkers know where to go.
So the sidewalk would not connect to the mall? I'm sorry. The sidewalk would not, in other words, you'd have to,
You have to have a crosswalk.
you have to cross Devonshire.
Sure. I mean, all of the retail you see at Devonshire, and they're showing they're showing a connection there. I think beefing that up. It gives all that kind of, there's all sorts of pedestrian stuff there. Something that you guys could consider. Another thing that while we might not want Wilshire as a vehicular access, sorry, thank you. You could consider it as a pedestrian access for that whole neighborhood. Now has a direct shot right to all those retail uses.
Almost a walking path, if you will,
Yep.
from there
Yeah.
to give them access to come straight up to go to the Costco.
Yeah, that's what I suggested before. The only caveat is it would be increased pedestrian traffic, including people who didn't live in that.
Sure, I mean, yeah.
But is that good or bad?
I don't know. I'm not, heck, I didn't even know to put the microphone on. So, it can go either way. I think we want interconnectivity, but people are always they're fiercely private. But that seems to be a little bit away from the development.
I did have a question about sidewalks within the property. Are there, you talked about sidewalks on Devonshire? Are you talking about sidewalks in the internal streets, the private streets?
Yes, there'll certainly be sidewalks that kind of connect the units to the front sidewalks along Devonshire. I mean, these aren't 100% worked out, but there are sidewalks kind of along these units that then lead along these drives. I think, there are locations where we maybe wouldn't want to put sidewalks on both sides of some of these streets. But there will certainly be sidewalk connectivity throughout the whole area.
And we talked about connectivity from Hillshire up, right?
Wilshire.
Wilshire. I'm hungry. You have that little spur trail there, that looks, how long is that, a quarter mile, or, looks pretty small?
Yeah, it's probably not quite a quarter of a mile, but
Right,
yeah.
right. So, if you were to consider some type of a trail from Wilshire, you might want to consider connecting it
Right.
to the loop, so that you maintain the privacy of the homes, but you still have the access that we're talking about, 'cause, the connectivity that possibly could get to the retail district.
Jason, do you have any concerns, comments?
Yeah, just a few things to add there. One of the concerns is with site distance at this particular location along Devonshire, particularly the easternmost access point. One of the reasons that right in, right out exists at the target is due to that site distance limitation. So that's something that would need to be evaluated pretty fully with any plan submission that would follow. Internal access is also a concern. As Jake mentioned, the layout that's proposed here doesn't comply with the ordinance in several ways, with street layout, roadway geometry, things of that nature. That alleyway, well, I guess we're considering an alleyway. There's concerns with deliveries, trash pickup, just with the orientation of the garages and the narrow width of that alleyway. I think it's important to recognize that this layout is something that wouldn't comply with the ordinance, which I think is the reason why these gentlemen are here tonight, just to get an overall sense for if this is something that the type of development that the township would really see as consistent for this parcel. So that's all that I have to add.
So again, it didn't comply, you said, with, I can't
Correct.
re-
There's several instances where it doesn't. The street separation distance, the horizontal curve radiuses that are required. I know we're not to the point where we're looking at roadway profiles or anything like that, but they would need to comply with the stopping site distance, the vertical curve design criteria, sidewalk curb along each side of the street. Those are just some of the things off the top of my head.
You said something about geometry, I forget what.
Yeah, the vertical curve and the horizontal curve design criteria.
Would it be possible can you guys, and I forgot your names already, but that's, to do an alternative mock-up with it being compliant with the current ordinance? In other words, does this project only work for you if it's this configuration?
So, I mean, we have looked at alternate concepts. I'll say that this configuration is needed to work with this style of units and development.
So what I'm asking you is the issues that HRG just pointed out. Can you render a graphic with that in? I mean, it seemed to me to be not insignificant, especially with some of the roadway issues.
Yeah, and I mean, this design is really more consistent with access drive design, and because of just how the ordinance defines things, that's kind of why we're looking at this as private streets, and to meet that definition of a private street, but to allow the design to kind of function as access drives do.
I understand. What I'm asking you is, can you do a rendering with wider streets and no alleys?
Yes, we could certainly we could look at wider
Thank
streets
you.
and no alleys.
Just playing devil's advocate, Jason, do they need to comply with that if it's gonna stay as private streets?
But I think that's where there's some ambiguity. If we were to consider these access drives, which the definition in the zoning ordinance It could be applicable. The streets definition.
It's not so much the internal streets, it's more gonna be the access to Devonshire and those points that would be of greatest concern? Is that what you're saying?
No.
The internal.
For any development that proposes private streets, they still need to meet the criteria and the requirements of a public street. So that's what I was getting at with all of those roadway requirements.
That's a good question.
So we aren't proposing these as private streets strictly to get around not having to meet the stringent requirements of the ordinance. Is that correct? Because that was my first assumption and the reason that they were gonna stay as private.
Yeah, that's not the purpose for them to stay private. The purpose for them to stay private is just that's how this development, that's how they've developed these units as condo units and private, because it just has to go along with people not wanting to maintain yards and things. It's, that's the certain type of people that, they're looking to sell these units to that are like that. And
So to clarify, I believe the initial understanding was the township would not accept dedication of these streets. If the township were open to that, that may change the plan.
Just out of curiosity, why is that? Why wouldn't the township consider having those dedicated to the township?
Oh, I don't think that they would. I believe that if they proposed these as public streets, they would be considered just as they would in any other development, assuming that they're able to meet the requirements of the ordinance.
Okay, then I may have misunderstood Ryan, what you had said.
Which one is Ryan?
Ryan's the
That would be
second
me.
guy.
Oh, second.
So
guy.
thank you for clarifying. That's an important consideration.
No,
on our
it
side.
is important, and, yeah, that rendering, if you could get it to us, because it gives us more input on where we get, because you saw how long it took us to approve an acre, multiply that by 38.
And yeah, just to note, just on timeframes, I mean, the applicant right now is in due diligence, so I believe, they are looking to have to act on the property by the end of the month, which is partially why we're here to kind of get your feedback to determine if they're going to kind of move forward with the project or not. And so this feedback is helpful. And we can certainly look at an option where there's there's public streets and what that does, but this is still an option that's permitted in the ordinance, and something that I think that the developer might still look to kind of go towards as well.
But
And
how
so-
does that reconcile with HRG's comments that you're saying, essentially, if I'm understanding you, that by right, you could do this? Whereas I just listed 3 or 4 comments that Jason had that this is out of sync.
Well, what I mean by right is that we could develop by right these townhomes on private streets.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, street spacing, horizontal curve, okay. If you could.
Yeah, I
say-
mean, we're basically looking to develop these in accordance with access drive design criteria, but as private streets. I'm not maybe putting that quite right, but
Yeah, I would just say, again, my opinion, that you would have to come back to the planning commission next month for approval, which is apparently what you're saying.
no, we're not. We would not be coming back for approval next month. This is purely just to get your input on.
All right, I thought you said you wanted to get direction by next month.
Well, we're hoping to get just your general thoughts and input on the plan this evening.
To make a decision on
Oh,
this.
okay.
Yeah.
Not-
All right.
Not with this part.
You didn't know you were coming to an ARP meeting, huh?
Okay, go ahead.
How many bedroom generally? Are these 2-3 bedroom units?
3-bedroom, 2.5 bath units.
So, and while my kind of AICP planning credentials or people would probably throw a chair at me for saying this, I don't think there's enough parking for 38 3-bedroom units. I have it, there's roughly 20 off-street spots other than the garage units. I think that would become an issue, and there's no other options for this development. If that gets parked out, there's no street park, there's no other options where they can walk. I mean, they'd be maybe trying to park at Costco, I don't know. But, guest parking, and, I mean, I think all of us know that if
But is the-
eventually families typically have more than 2 cars. That's not uncommon.
Well, yeah.
And if half of them have more than 2 cars,
So,
there's no more parking.
yeah, and I think the assumption is that 1 car to 1 person doesn't always hold true. And then you always have somebody who's got an RV, which shouldn't be there, I would assume. But so what you're saying is, given the dimensions of the home, that would drive parking to a point where it would be insufficient as proposed.
Yeah, and I'll just note, I appreciate the comment, and we can certainly look into if, where and if more parking is warranted. I will note that we are in alignment with the code as far as requirements for units and additional guest spaces, but we'll still take that comment into advisement.
But the only option I would assume is you'd have to cannibalize from open space to put any small parking lot type of structure.
You could gain a lot of parking by converting that back row of parallel to pull-in parking. I mean, you'd almost double those spaces. But, I mean, they're the designers.
Are these units double 2-car garages?
Yes.
And then do some of them have driveways, like the ones on the side? Do they have the driveways?
Yeah, the ones on the right side have driveways they could park in.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
So they could meet the requirements, whether it's enough or not, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't count the garage, but they are counted as part, at least they were as part of the ordinance, correct?
Still are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people also convert the garage into living space.
Or storage.
Yes, just a bunch of stuff.
I tried to do that in Susquehanna Township, it didn't work out for me. So, ergo I moved. The sighting distance issue, does that need a traffic light, or how do you resolve that? Because almost every intersection on Colonial Road is failing in terms of sighting distance.
Yeah, as part of the plan, there would need to be a site distance analysis performed, and if there's inadequate site distance there to perform a left-hand turn, for instance, we may need to consider making it a right-in, right-out access.
And you guys are looking for more input on Wilshire, is it Will?
Yes, well, sure.
Hampshire was the other one, Wilshire?
Okay, any other comments? Mr. Miller?
I just feel that.
Can you come to the podium, Bill?
I'll keep it very short. I just agreed. You mentioned it, that they will do their own snow removal and maintenance. I think we're at a point now with the development in the township, as what will happen on Wenrick Street. The excessive burden on township personnel, equipment through perpetuity needs to be looked at hard, and I'm in favor of these HOAs maintaining their own property, hauling the snow away, especially in a big blizzard, and where do you put it in a cul-de-sac and so on and so forth. So that was my concern, and that's resolved. Thank you.
So your concern was where to put the snow?
Well, in any kind of a snow thing, it's going to be on the HOA. It's their deal. The township doesn't get involved. Again, just because you get some fuel tax money out of it, it doesn't cover the equipment, the overtime, the labor, the wear and tear, hauling stuff away in big snows. It's, in the winters sometimes get worse. So I just agree with the fact they need to do their own maintenance within that particular HOA, as I hope happens on Wenrick Street as well. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other comments? Okay, so we don't have to take any action on this tonight, it was just for discussion? Okay,
Yes.
Give a-
Just for discussion.
yes, okay,
Okay. Thank you very much.
welcome. Okay. We are down to regular public comment. Any public comment in general? Commissioners' comment? I do have one thing. I think it's time that we start thinking about data centers and what that entails. And I understand the county has a,
Yeah.
We have a data center fact sheet, so we have our planning toolkit. It's 2-3 page fact sheets on, I don't know, 50 different topics. Data centers is one of them. Lots of links to other resources. We also have our data center model ordinance,
Okay.
which is kind of structured as a it's not one you just find and replace and put in
Right.
lower Paxton, you're good to go. It's kind of, you need to go through, there's all sorts of different options in there of how stringent you want to get, what kinds of things. We even have provisions in there for small modular reactors, which
Yeah,
are coming.
I noticed that. I
the
don't think that's a
new-
great idea.
The new thing coming. You do or don't think
I
that?
don't, it's not gonna happen, but we can talk later.
Well, then you don't need to include that in your
Yeah,
ordinance.
yeah, but what
So-
I'm saying, I like what you did, is that the ordinance itself is terrific. And it gives you options to add on or delete. I've looked at South Hanover's proposed ordinance, and I've looked at Sweatera's, and you guys would be commended. It's very thorough, it gives you a lot of options. You can be as green as you want.
Yep.
I don't know how much land in the Lower Paxton avails itself, but the chairwoman is right, we need to
Yep.
do something. I've used that a number of times.
And I'll just say, the one thing that, and we're kind of on the roller coaster of data center regulation, and now people want to get kind of crazy about it. You just need to be careful that you're not imposing regulations on data centers that you don't for other similar types of development. So if you can't impose specific requirements for data centers that you're not imposing on like other types of industrial development.
okay. And are
So if there's
these,
impacts, you can regulate those impacts, but you want to be careful going above and beyond for other things.
and are these things that you mentioned available on your website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think though, what I noticed with the South Hanover project that concerned me is that they're proposing the quarry. And then they're also proposing to aggregate residential properties. And it's been a while, like a couple weeks since I looked at the ordinance. I think it's loaded front end to do all the studies prior, whether it's noise, traffic, or whatever. I think the biggest challenge is having people understand what they are, what the problems are and what the benefits are. So I commend you guys, look great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's what I do on the weekend, is read that kind of stuff.
Exciting life.
Not really.
So you can give us a summary then, right?
Yeah, no, actually, sure.
Did you have comment?
Nope, that,
I have a question. So this is directed to the gentleman from the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. You said that in developing our ordinance regarding data centers, we should make sure that we don't impose anything on the data center could you repeat that sentence, please?
you want to make sure that the regulations in your data center ordinance are specific to the impacts of data centers and aren't imposing regulations and stipulations on those data centers that other types of development would also, that you don't impose on those types of impacts from other types of development, if that makes sense. The best example is decommissioning. There's a lot of ordinances are addressing decommissioning. We've heard from kind of land use lawyer experts, and I'll say I'm not a lawyer. Consult with your solicitor on everything I'm about to say. You could require decommissioning for the hazardous materials within the data center equipment. You want to be careful of requiring decommissioning of the buildings themselves if you're not going to require decommissioning of vacant warehouses, of vacant commercial properties, that kind of thing.
That's where it gets ambiguous, because decommissioning, from my experience, should be loaded up front. If you're expecting the funding to come after the used and useful life, it's not going to happen. But Pamela raises a good point. The decommissioning concerns me because you don't really know what's going on. And so I don't know, do we have decommissioning standards for any other?
What do we have for the county?
Well, this would be coming from the county, but what I'm saying is Lower Paxton, I don't think has decommissioning standards. So how is that not imposing new regulations that don't otherwise exist? Because I would never cite a data center without a decommissioning component. I mean, what we do with nuclear, coal, we have external trust funds where the money's put away. Because once the data center's done, they're gone. There ain't no goodwill. So I think that Supervisor Thompson, that's, I don't know how we deal with that. It's a great point. Wh- Yeah, and the other problem is there's some federal preemption, depending on how it's zoned and how it's built. So federal standards now have been reduced significantly. So I don't know if we have the ability to create our own standards that are more aggressive to protect the community. But, and I know Commissioner and as supervisors, both supervisors here have been interested in doing it and doing it right. I think one of the things that I found interesting with South Hanover is they decided to have a more aggressive decibel requirements. So if we changed our, because what is it now, 65? 65. Yeah, it's, the South Hanover is 55. So for an example, if we would change it, we would have to have that change apply to every entity in the township.
All right, thank you. So, Nick, the way we left this is that there's going to be a little more research, is that correct?
It's time to start the process for looking into adopting an ordinance for a data center. You don't want to move forward with not having a use that's not provided for. Then it gives the applicant to apply for that use for a conditional use for a use not provided for, which is risky at best for the township.
Let me translate that because that was quick.
Well, I was specifically asking about the decommissioning aspect.
I can send you what I have, Pamela. I'm happy to. That I'm actually an expert witness on decommissioning in the nuclear industry. It is hard.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and once they're gone, folks, they're gone.
Okay, any other comments? Our next meeting is September 2nd, and do I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Was that ever who had the motion to adjourn? I see, you're killing it with motions.